Hello, my name's Keith Rucker. Out at the museum, it's Saturday, middle January, I guess, and we're still working on the Vance Planer Matcher project. Been slowly over the last couple of weeks, even going back before the first of the New Year's when I still had some time off and was trying to get some things knocked out on this project. I've been working on getting the second set of feed rollers all ready to install on the machine. And as I had mentioned in one of my videos previously, a lot of the machining operations that I've been doing were exactly the same as the first set of feed rollers that I did. So I really haven't been shooting a lot of video of it. Been busy working on things, but it would have been repetitious. You guys have already seen how I went about doing a lot of those operations, so just haven't shown a lot of it on video. Today, I think I'm finally to the point where we're ready to start putting things together and starting installing it on the machine. And I thought we'd shoot some video to show you how all the stuff just goes together. But before I do get into that, a couple of just little housekeeping things I want to take care of. First off, and really I guess most importantly, is I want to acknowledge Tim Lipton from Oxtools out in California. Tom sent me a little care package that came in the mail this past week. If you follow his YouTube channel, you will probably have noticed that I actually sent him some stuff over right after the first of the year, and he was kind enough to shoot a little video on that. And in return, he sent me a few little items, and I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you, Tom, and show you guys what he sent me, because I like it. First off, and I think Tom actually got a bunch of these gloves. I think I remember seeing in a video he bought a bunch of them at the flea market, but this is his favorite kind of gloves. They're Maxi Flex, and they're a thin glove, but they kind of got a rubber padding here on the front. I've actually been wearing these in the shop a little bit already today, and I really like these. I wear gloves for a lot of things in the shop, and usually what I've been wearing is, these kind of leather, not all leather, some of the back's not really leather, but these mechanic type gloves. They're a little bit thinner, but they're still leather, and I went to these several years ago because they are thinner and you can just work with them in the shop a little bit better. I've never really tried these kind. These really, I guess, they're well made, but I guess they're really made to be disposable. When they get to a certain point, you just throw them in the trash. But I really like them. They're super thin, and that's what I really like about them probably more than anything else, is that when you put these on, you can really use your hands. A lot of times, even with these mechanic type gloves, if I'm working on something kind of fine, I may have to take my glove off to do it. And I'll say too that today in South Georgia, where I'm at, it's pretty darn cold, so the gloves have really come in handy from that standpoint as well. I guess cold is a relative term depending on what part of the planet you live on, but anytime it gets below freezing here in South Georgia, we call that a pretty cold snap. And we got down well below freezing last night. When I came in the shop this morning, I was huddled up. In fact, you see me sitting next to my heater over here right now, and it's already after lunch. It's still pretty cool, at least for me. And I know some of you guys that live in those colder parts of the world are probably laughing at me right now, and that's fine. I don't care. I like it warm, and I'm living in the right place for that. Let's see. Also, Tom sent me one of these little screwdrivers, and I saw this also in one of his videos recently, where he had this little, what's it called? The teeny turner. It's a little screwdriver, and you can take bits out. It has a bunch of bits built into the handle. You just kind of push out the one you need and put it in there. All small. He's got some torque bits in here, Phillips head, flat head. I can see this being real useful. I'm going to put this in my toolbox out here, my machinist toolbox. Trains going by, as you can hear. So anyway, I'm going to put this in my machinist toolbox, and you'll probably see me using this from time to time. Thank you, Tom. And also, he sent me a little Oxtools pin. I've seen some other guys wearing these, and that wasn't the reason I sent this to you, but this is one of the coolest things to me, is this little Oxtools pin. I'll get a close-up of that. So I'm going to put this on my apron for today, and maybe this makes me an official oxen, as Tom refers to us guys that watch this channel. So thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. And to me, probably the neatest part, or maybe not the neatest, but one of the really neat parts of the whole little package he sent me was he sent me a little postcard, little note that handwritten, and I'm not going to read this, but the front of it shows a steam locomotive that went over the side of a it looks like it's at a station, and it was the tracks were up on the second floor, and it kind of went over the front and crashed. And being a steam locomotive nut, and it's a steam nut and period, I guess, I really like this. That I've never seen this picture before. I think it was actually taken in the Netherlands. The date on it is 1895, so it's an old steam locomotive that had a really bad day. And I can tell you, we've had some really bad days out here at the museum with our steam locomotive, but fortunately, never anything quite this bad. So anyway, thank you, Tom. I'm going to put this up. I've got a little bulletin board in my office at home that just has a bunch of little stuff on it, and I'm going to stick this on there because I really like this picture. I don't know where you found that, but man, thank you. I appreciate that as much as everything else. Thank you, Tom. This is the bottom feed roller assembly. It's pretty much ready to go on the machine. Just talk a little bit about what all we did to get it here. So again, you've probably seen most of these things that I've done in other videos, so I'm not going to really spend a lot of time telling you how I did it, just kind of show you how it all goes together now that it's kind of coming together. So first off, we have the actual feed roller itself, and if you remember, we cleaned these up on the lathe. They were really, really rusty, pitty, I mean, they were in bad shape. We had to come in here and redress the journals here that the bearing goes up on, as well as work on the ends down here on the lathe. We had to reface this. This roller part is actually cast iron. We have steel that goes in here for the actual shaft that goes through it. So we had to turn this down, not a whole lot, but enough to get it cleaned up. So it is a little bit smaller diameter than original, but you know, we're only talking probably maybe 80 thousandths. I think I took off of all these, if I remember my numbers right. So the bearing blocks are all put together and ready to go now. So we're just going to put these on here, and I'll show you how it goes together on the machine outside, and then we'll show you putting this thing together. So this is the machine that we're going to go on to here, and we've already got the in-feed side pretty much done. So this is the out-feed feed rollers, and first off you have this upright stanchion here, and this is what those bearing blocks that we showed you are going to slide up and down. So there'll be a top roller and a bottom roller. They'll just fit down into this. The bottom roller is adjustable. I've got several set screws in here to adjust the angle in both axes to match the roller itself, and then this is going to be anchored down. The bottom one does not roll, and of course at the top bearing block, which is virtually just like this, will adjust up and down in between these stanchions here. Just stay right there. Up, up, up. All right. And down. That's it. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So you can see now how everything goes. We have the bearing block in here. Of course, that's the bearing. We'll tighten this up. I don't want to wait and do that later, just simply because we've got to get this roller on the same plane as the table. So I have to get a straight edge put across both sides and adjust these bottom screws to get it lifted up to where it's in the right place. And once we do that, we'll just tighten everything down and it'll be ready to go. And then now we're ready to start working on the top assembly. It's a little more complicated than the bottom one. We got a little bit more work to do to that one before we can stick it on the machine. I've got the top feed roller assembly kind of laid out here on the bench right now. It's kind of ready to go together. Everything's painted. Really, you can kind of see how it goes together. So you got the roller here. Over here you have the bearing blocks, just like we had on the bottom. The only difference is that These have a little keeper in here that this coil spring fits into, and this goes up to the top cross piece that goes across here, and this is where the adjustment screws, it's too dark to see that, but there's a hole right here where the height adjustment screw goes into, and that adjusts that feed roller up and down. Really the only thing that's left to do is I need to recreate a couple of these U-bolts. And these U-bolts, I had to cut to get them off. They were just so rusted up that I just couldn't get them to come apart. And you can tell that this metal here, if you look, is very eroded in places. These pieces are pretty much shot. And what they did was, this fits on the bottom of the bearing here. The brown part goes up. It goes up through this piece here and through the top, and then there's a couple of nuts that hold together. So anyway, I kept my end pieces that I cut off. I was able to match those up, and using the rule, I've determined that this is 24 inches long, the metal was. So I'm going to take, if I remember right, that's 3/8 inch stock. I'm going to take that. I will cut me a couple of 24-inch pieces. We'll go ahead and thread the ends, and then we'll come over here and bend that U-bolt pattern to fit around the bottom of that bearing block, and put this whole assembly together, and this whole assembly will go on the machine in one piece. I've got my 3/8 inch rod cut to length, and I threaded the ends of this. Just use a die stock. It was just quick and easy. 3/8 is pretty easy to do with a die, so instead of trying to do a lathe, I just knocked it out there real quick. What I've done is I've gone here and I've marked the very center of this with just some chalk, and now I'm going to heat this up in the middle with a torch, and come over here and use the actual bearing cap that I'm going to bend around as a mandrel to shape it to. So let's get started with this heat up, and we'll be ready to go. Alright, I think that's going to work. We'll cool that off and put her together. We're going to try to put this together now. This is where I could really use an extra set of hands, but it's just me in the shop, so we're going to see if I can manage to put this jigsaw puzzle together without some extra help. So anyway, you see the U-bolts that we got. Those just go underneath the bearing block. This spring fits right in this keeper here, and the whole assembly here comes down. Y'all bear with me, I'm going to be jumping back and forth in front of that camera. Okay, let me pull that out right now. Okay, got those in their keepers, and now what's going on right here is you got this bolt coming here with a spring in here, and that holds this bottom piece in here, but the spring has got it a little cockeyed, so I'm hoping I can just kind of tap it down and get these holes to line up a little bit better than what they're lining up right now. And actually, I think that may have done it. There we go. Let me get the other one going together. All right. Getting close. Yep. Put a couple of nuts on here so that doesn't come back apart. And same thing over here. Let's see. Get my spring in there. Those are a little bit too close together right now. All right, I think we've got it. That is ready to go back on the machine. It's getting kind of late this evening, so I'm going to call it a day, and maybe we can get that put on there tomorrow or sometime real soon. So there you see how we got the rollers put back on the machine. Again, working by myself, had to be ingenious. So we used the forks on the tractor there along with the chain hoist and just dropped them right down in here. I used the chain hoist so that I could control it rather than having to run back and forth between the controls, and kind of got it on there. I think it went pretty well. So now we got these back on. The next step is to get the height adjustment screws and the top mechanism with the chain and everything installed in there, and we'll hopefully have these outfeed feed rollers finished up soon. So let me give a quick update of where we're at. Of course, you saw where I put the top feed roller assembly back on. And I got out there and I was just kind of dry fitting the expansion gears together so I could show you how all that goes together. And I realized that I had left out something that needed to be done that I just didn't catch earlier. But this is the idler gears that go on the expansion gears. Two of these, and you'll see in a little bit how it all goes together. But this basically just fits on this shaft and it just idles. Well, the problem is that over the years it has worn a good bit of let's see if we can get that to focus. Good bit of play in there, and anyway, we're gonna have to bore this out, make sure we got a good smooth bore in here. I've actually measured these, and they're pretty round, but it's worn. It's not a machine finish, so we'll just kind of roughly indicate on the inside of that hole and get it kind of true, and then we're going to just clean that up, and then we'll turn some bronze bushings to fit in there. So just to get a quick center on this, I've just got the gear put into the 4-jaw chuck. I've ran this up with the bell center here. This is just going to give me a rough indication on the center. Quite honestly, that's probably good enough, but I'm just going to check it real quick with the indicator just to make sure we got it on there. But I'm just going to snug this up right now in the 4-jaw without trying to move it too much, and then we'll check it with the indicator. Alright, just show you what we got here on the indicator. This is just putting it in, just using the bell center. And if I spin this around, I've got probably about 12, 15 thousandths in there. But when I mic the inside of that bore, that's about the same amount of error I've got in there. So again, this is not a machine. This is just a hole that has worn. So the inside is not perfectly round. We're going to call that good enough. We're going to just bore that out, get a good smooth finish now, and we'll be ready to make our bushings, and we'll do this on both the gears. Alright, I've got my new CA tool holder on here. I've been needing this for a long time, and haven't really had much of a chance to use this new tool holder yet, so I'm kind of excited. I got me a boring bar holder here with a 1-inch boring bar with just a carbide insert tip on it. And again, we're not going to be doing any heavy boring here. All I want to do is just get this cleaned up and trued up, and then we're going to call this done and go to the next gear. Good enough. So I've got a piece of bronze stock in here. We're going to punch a 1-inch hole in here, 3.5 inches deep, and then we'll bore that out to the right size. We'll start out by just running in there with a center drill, get us a good center to work off of. That's 3.5 right there. Alright, I have my 3/4 inch boring bar set up here. I've got it set to 3.5 inches, so it basically the edge of the tool holder comes up to the edge here. I know I'm to depth, and we're going to bore this out. We got to go to that's 1.4375, just a little bit larger than that, so we'll have a good bearing fit on there for this. So we got about 400 and a little over 400 thousandths to go, so let's get started. I've let this cool down now. Took a measurement. We got about 27 thousandths to go. So also I have switched out my boring bar to my larger boring bar. This is a 1 inch boring bar. I was using a 3/4. When we first started, couldn't get the 1 inch in there, but it's fitting now, so I get a little bit less chatter with that. So anyway, we're ready to go. I'm going to take about since I'm going to have to touch off and kind of reestablish where I'm at, I'll take about half of that in the first pass, and then we'll take the last pass to clean it up since we put a new boring bar in. Plus it's cooled down, and the measurements probably changed since last time we cut. So let's go. All right, we got our inside bore ready, so now we need to get the outside. I bored that deep enough to actually get 2 bushings, but the inside diameter on both of the gears will be exactly the same. So we're going to do the first one. The outside diameters are different on both of them. We just cleaned them up, so just whatever they end up being. The first bore is measuring 1.948. So we're going to go for a 1,000th interference cut. So we're going to measure to 1.949, and the stock is 2 inches, so we got we got 51 thousandths to cut off of it. So we're just going to touch off here, make probably about a 25 thousandths cut, and see where we're at, and then we'll go from there. And that needs to be, the first one needs to be 1.5 inches thick. So I'll start out by putting me a witness mark on here. Probably a little over 1.5 inches, and then we'll cut that and then part it off. Be 1.5 inches right there. Alright, we're ready to press this in. I stuck this bushing in the freezer for a few minutes just to hopefully shrink it up just a little bit, and hopefully we just push this right in with the arbor press. All right, that one's done. Grab the other one. Perfect. They went in pretty good. I did have to put a little cheater bar on there to get the last probably 1/4 of an inch in, but pressed right in just like what we want. We'll come in here and drill through the bronze where the oil holes are, and these will be ready to go back on the machine. Alright, we're ready to start putting the expansion gears back on this machine now. I did put on these back expansion pieces in the gears here, and this just slid on, no big deal, and these just have a Woodruff key that holds them in place. So we've got those on, but now I'm going to show you how these go together so you can kind of see how these parts fit. So first thing we'll do is there's just a piece, a link that goes between the two that holds them together in the back, and that just slides. There we go. So that just slides on to the very back and links those together. Next we'll put on the 2 gears. So the top gears, of course, these are the ones we just made the bushings for. Be sure we have the oil hole on the outside because this gear is just going to turn on that shaft. And the bottom gear. Just trying to get this shaft to go all the way through the bottom and through the top here. All right. Next piece is another link. Those go on there like that. And then there's another set of expansion gears that will go on the front. So let's put the bottom one on first. Again, there's an oil hole right here. That's the one that goes up. So these are just, it just turns on this shaft here, and on this shaft over here it's just holding that, the shaft in place in the bottom. Alright, and the top link, same thing. And I ran into the same thing on the other side. Let me grab a block of wood. All right, I had to get some help to get these straightened out. What it was there's a little bit of play in these. It's made where it just spins on the shaft, and it had just got a little bit cockeyed, and I had to get an extra set of hands to come in here with some pry bars and get behind these and pry the top and bottom one to get these lined back up to where we could get it to all go together. So, but anyway, we got it on there now, and take the nuts. So nuts go back on here. And then there's nuts for these. All right, these nuts, let me just show this too real quick. This is 12 threads per inch. I don't even know what size it is, but obviously I don't have a die for it. But I've got this little thread file here, and I measured that, and on here I got 12 threads per inch, and I just kind of went in here and dressed these threads up with this thread file. This is a little handy little tool. You know, we got 12, 14, 18, 24, 20, 16, 13, and 11 threads per inch all on this one file here. And these come in real handy for just dressing threads on something old. So, and I went in here and just kind of cleaned these up to make sure they're good. And one of these, the top one here is left-hand thread, because these are spinning in different directions and you don't want your nut to spin itself off. Make sure I get the right one on the top here. I think this one is the one that goes there. Yeah. Well, alright, I think we got this going on here now. So this one is left hand. Had to get my thread file out and do a little more work on that. And everybody needs a 24-inch crescent wrench if you don't have one. All right, and now this one here is normal right-hand thread. Let's see if we have trouble getting it to start. Maybe that'll go. All right, we'll lube these up. So oil goes in these holes here. Another one right there. All right, so back together.